What is up everyone, Jason from JB Watch Mods here, back with another build, and today we're building a watch I've had on my radar for a very long time. We're building a homage to the Rolex Explorer 2. Now we're using a custom printed dial, 39mm case, sapphire crystal, and most importantly an NH34 GMT movement. I cannot wait to see how this one's going to look. Let's jump into it. Okay, so when you're building your NH34 GMT, the new movement that you buy will come with a small curved washer. Now that washer needs to sit over the center post on the movement, and its purpose is to keep the GMT gears in place and prevent it from coming in contact with the dial. Now the washer is in a curved U shape, and I always install the washer with the bottom of the U in contact with the movement. Now this is a dial that I've been using as a prototype, so it's already been prepped to fit the movement. Now to prep your dial, you need to cut off the correct feet on the back of the movement, and in this case I also had to enlarge the center hole of the dial, as it was designed for an NH35 movement, and the NH34 has a slightly bigger center post due to that GMT hand. Now as you can see here, there are two small holes in that movement ring which will accept the dial feet. Once you get the dial feet lined up with those two holes, all you need to do is press down on that movement until the dial is sitting flush all the way around the movement. So now that our dial is fitted to the movement, we can get ready to fit the handset. Now before we start thinking about pressing down the hands, we need to get the movement into the correct position. Now to do this, we pull out that crown stem and turn it over as if we're adjusting the time. Now we do this until the date wheel clicks over, then we know we're at 12 AM on the movement. Once we're at 12 AM on the movement, we can go ahead and fit our hands accordingly. So obviously the first hand that we're going to fit is the GMT hand. Now to fit the hand, I like to use a little bit of Rolex, and what I do is roll it up into a cone shape, as you can see here, and just stick the hand into the end of that Rolex. I found for me that this way gives me the best control over the hand without leaving any marks or scratches on that hand. And I found that using that Rolex is also a great way to clean any marks off the handset. So once we've got that hand pressed down into the correct position, we need to double check all of our clearances, which is especially important on a GMT watch as you've got 4 hands rather than your 3 hands on an NH35. So obviously you need to make sure that that GMT hand clears all of your indices, but you also want to keep it as low as possible so it doesn't interfere with our hour hand. So once we've turned our GMT hand all the way around 24 hours, our date wheel should flick back over once we get that GMT hand back at 12 o'clock. Once we're happy that the position and the clearances are all good, we can go ahead and fit our hour hand. Now I made the mistake of calling this a true GMT in a previous video, and I've since learned that this movement is called an office or caller GMT. Now from what I can gather, a true GMT allows you to set the hour hand independently from the GMT and minute hand, whereas on this office or caller GMT, you're unable to set the time without that GMT hand moving. Now this could be a hassle if you've got that GMT set to your home time and you change time zones. This means that whenever you change the time, you're going to have to reset both the hour and the GMT hands. But unless you're travelling and changing time zones a lot, this shouldn't be too much of a big deal. Okay, so now we have our hour hand fitted, we can go ahead and fit our minute hand. Now we use exactly the same process here, just with that rotoco, and lining that minute hand up directly at 12 o'clock. Now I find the minute hand can sometimes be the trickiest hand to fit. Don't know why, just sometimes I have a little bit of trouble with it. But there we go, got it fitted. Now we'll rotate the movement, just making sure that all the hands clear each other and that everything lines back up at 12 o'clock. So as you can see, it's extremely important to double check your work at every step of the way. This can save you potentially a lot of headaches down the track. And last but not least is our second hand. Now I know a lot of people struggle with the second hand, but there's really no secret to it other than just practice. Obviously it helps to have good lighting, and for me, getting the movement at eye level makes it a lot easier. Now it may sound like a broken record, but again we're going to check our clearances, just making sure that that second hand doesn't foul on any of your other hands. You also don't want it too high up as it may foul on the crystal once installed into the case. And by the way, I'm really loving this colour combination. I think it looks absolutely killer. I'm super stoked with my dial design as well. Really happy with that orange GMT accent, just matching that GMT hand perfectly. Absolutely stoked with it. Okay, so now that everything's looking good with the dial and the handset, it's time to move on to our case. Now before we get too excited and just go ahead and pair our movement into the case, we need to do one thing first, which is cleaning our crystal. So let's go ahead and remove our case back gasket to get out of the way, then we can go ahead and get our air blower and our lens pen and start to clean this crystal. Because the last thing you want is any dust, debris or any loose hairs under that crystal once your watch is assembled. So for me, I found that the best way to clean the crystal is by using my air blower and a lens pen. Now I also sometimes use a lens cloth just to clean any large debris or grime off that outside of the crystal before hitting it with the lens pen. So just take your time with this step. I know that it can be exciting and you just want to get that dial fitted into the case to see how it looks, but trust me, I know from experience, having assembled watches to then find a little piece of dust under the crystal, it can be a bit of a bummer to realise that you have to pull it all back apart. So once you're happy that your crystal is nice and clean, before we can fit the movement we need to remove the dummy crown stem. Now in order to do this, there's a small lever which needs to be depressed to remove that crown stem. You also need to have the crown pushed all the way in for that lever to appear. Now I just get my small screwdriver and just slightly put some pressure on that lever while pushing the crown stem out, and it should pop straight out. And I like to give everything one last blow down before assembling it, just to make sure that everything is nice and clean. And now we get our first quick glimpse of what this watch is going to look like. But I'll build up a little bit of suspense, so I'll flip it over quickly and we can move on to the next step, which is cutting our crown stem. So if you're a beginner, this is probably not the best method to use, but I just go by eye for the first cut, just to get somewhere in the ballpark as a starting point. Ideally, if you're starting out, you want to screw the crown straight into the crown stem and pop it into the case. Then you want to measure the distance from the crown to the case, and that's how much you're going to cut off the first time. but I've done this a few times now, so I'll skip that step and just roughly cut by eye just to save a little bit of time. Now after I cut the crown stem, I grab my Dremel with a little sanding disc on the end just to sand smooth the end of the crown stem so I don't damage the threads inside the crown when screwing it on for the first time. But if you don't have a Dremel, a small file will work perfectly. So now we can screw the crown onto the crown stem for the first time and test fit it into the case to see how it's looking. So as you can see here, we're still about 4 or 5 millimeters too long. Now you can see that our crown doesn't even reach the threads in the case yet. So we'll pull it back out and cut another 4 to 5 mil off this crown stem and retry it. So take 2, and we're looking much better this time. Now you can see our crown pushes in and pulls out nice and easily, so the next step is to screw it into the case to see how it looks. And it screws down nice and flush to the case, so that means our crown stem is the perfect length. So what we'll do is take it all back out, unscrew that crown and pop some Loctite on the crown stem before putting it in for the last time. Now I'll just grab my Loctite, which is a medium strength, which means it'll be easy to service in the future if I ever need to pull this back apart. The Loctite also just ensures that this crown isn't going to wind itself off this crown stem unintentionally. Now you only need a tiny bit of Loctite on your crown stem. And once you're done screwing the crown back in, be sure to wipe any excess Loctite off your crown stem. So now that the crown is on the crown stem nice and tight and locked into place, we can pop it into the case for the final time. Now, you remember that case back gasket we pulled out of the case at the very beginning? Well, now it's time to lube it up and pop it back onto the case. Now we'll pop it into our silicone grease before putting it back into the case and getting this watch sealed up. Now some watches have a groove in the case back where the gasket sits, and others will house the gasket on the case back itself. So just double check before fitting the gasket which style case you have. Now the case we're using today requires the use of a movement spacer. I actually get a lot of questions about whether or not you need to use a movement spacer. And generally the answer is if you need a movement spacer for that case, it will always come with the case. That is providing you've ordered the you're using. So don't worry if your case didn't come with a movement spacer, most likely it means that you won't need one. So now that we've got our spacer in and our gasket fitted, we can finally fit this case back. Now always screw these in as much as you can by hand before locking them down with your case back tool. Now if you're interested in picking this tool up for yourself or any of the other tools I've used, I'll leave links in the description below for all the tools and parts used in this build. Now it's looking absolutely awesome and almost complete, so the last step is to get the bracelet fitted. Now to make sure you fit the bracelet on the right way every time, a small trick I use is making sure that the small part of the clasp always faces the bottom of the watch. Now if you can manage to remember that, you'll never have to spend another 10 minutes refitting a bracelet that you put on backwards. And if you're sitting there thinking that this bracelet looks a little bit worse for wear, well that's because I use this bracelet on all of my watches just as a demo. But if you want to pick up one of these watches for yourself with a nice new shiny bracelet, you can head over to my website, which is jbwatchmods.com.au. There I've got a full range of watches that I make myself, so feel free to head over and check it out. Or if you don't feel like purchasing anything, head over to my Instagram, which is jbwatchmods, and follow along just to check out some cool watch pictures. But for now, this watch is just about done, so let's get this bracelet buttoned up and let's run some B-roll. That is it for today's build, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of today's build. Now personally, I absolutely love this watch. It's really surprised me. It's super versatile and can be worn with anything, and the sizing is just perfect for me. As usual, I'll leave links for all the parts I've used in the description below so you can build one for yourself, or head over to my website jbwatchmods.com.au and you can pick up a watch already made. If you've liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and until next time, see you later.